like to start with a thanks to the IoT Academy for inviting me for conducting this session. And good afternoon to all the participants. Welcome to this session on teaching pedagogy. I would take this session in parts, and I would invite all the participants, to um, occasionally, whenever I require their inputs, please share some thoughts in the chat box, because if it is an interactive session, it becomes much more meaningful and easier. Um, I am sure that there are all teachers who are attending this session. Many of them I have seen are already doctors, so we can look forward to a very fruitful session where we can share some knowledge from each other. This should not be a one-way session. So I will just keep sharing my thoughts along with my presentation, and wherever possible, you can also give in your inputs. So I hope that is fine with all. Thank you. Thank you. So, ma'am, can we move to the second slide? Yeah. See, before any session, we must understand the objectives or the purpose of a session. So this session, the various objectives are, since we are talking about teaching pedagogy, we will try to understand the terms and concepts of teaching pedagogy. We will understand the significance of these terms. We'll discuss on various learning styles and strategies, which I also follow, and I would share with all, so you all can also make some minor changes and adapt in your classrooms, so that you can practice some of these approaches, and you will also be able to elaborate on the teaching learning methodologies or the things that is available to today in the modern date. A lot of changes have happened. Teaching learning is a process which is evolving continuously. There is a lot of research going on what is the best way to teach, what is the best way to learn, and this has got a very reasonable and logical impact on the strategies that are adapted by the teachers in classrooms. But before I start the session, I'll start with a question to the participants. Uh, I believe everybody thinks or believes that they are good teachers. So it's quite not natural, you should have that confidence in yourself that you are a good teacher. But my question here is, um, why do you like to teach? What is the reason that you have become a teacher? I would give about 30 seconds. I want to see some responses in the chat box. Why have you chosen this profession? Participants, please respond in the chat box. Inspired by your own meticulous teachers. That's one. Okay. Miss Mahalakshmi, I just have a question. What is the subject that you teach? Okay, someone
I
says
teach life sciences.
life
I teach
sciences.
life science. And life
Okay, ma'am.
sciences.
Right. Yes, Satyendra Kumar says, I love to teach, and Geeta Pujari says, passion. Uh, Ma'am, I just have a question here to Miss Geeta. Passion for what? Can you just
So
unmute and say a
yes,
few words
yes,
there? Yes.
yes. So the passion to teach and to be with the students to spread knowledge about that way.
Okay. Passion to spread knowledge. Knowledge can be on numerous subjects, ma'am. So, which subject you are passionate about?
Economics.
Okay, you are passionate to spread knowledge of economics. Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah. Can we move on to the next slide, ma'am? Okay. So let us try and understand first what is pedagogy. So you can see there are some pictures here. The first one is a picture of a baby. Second one is a very artistic picture. The third one is symbolic of experiments and lot of other activities, which says science. So ideally, pedagogy means the art and science for educating or teaching children. Okay. When we talk about adults, we say it's andragogy, but the teaching pedagogy, the concept pedagogy still continues because we still believe the students to be children. And there is a very interesting definition which is I have written down there. A tutor must elicit response that demonstrates understanding. When you read this and understand, then you will be able to, realize a little bit more clearly what a classroom session is all about. If you have taken a session and post that session, if your student is able to demonstrate that he has understood what you have taught, the session has been fruitful. If the student is not able to demonstrate understanding, then there is a gap. I'm not saying that this gap is because you have not taught well or you don't know the subject, but this gap could be because you have not transferred the knowledge to the student in a fashion which he could adapt or accept. So there is a lot of challenge in how to deliver. Can we move on, madam? Yeah. So over here, as I already said, pedagogy translates into art and science of teaching children. Now let us look at it. Art. What is art? You have to correctly put the theories into practice and build on teaching experiences. What theories? Theories are there in numerous, textbooks and lots of knowledge is available. But you have to build it not from the textbook, but from your own teaching experience. You have to relate the experience with the textbook. If the entire subject is taught only on the basis of knowledge, students will not remain focused or interest. Science, the various theories of learning and instructional strategies for teaching. This knowledge can help you to improvise your own sessions and make your session more fruitful and impactful. So let's understand what is a pedagogy for teaching. It refers to a strategy of how educators teach in practice and theory. It actually means how you conduct a class and how your target, if you remember in the earlier slide, to demonstrate understanding from the student. So how you achieve that is by using different methods. So we'll look more into this in today's session. Can we move on? Yeah. Again, I have a question here. Um, so it's again open for all the participants. Please, you can share. Do you remember any teacher in your past from your school or college days, who has inspired you? If you have somebody, then please share their name in the chat box. Any teacher who has inspired you? Yes, I have an answer from Miss Mahalakshmi, from Navita. Okay, so what is it that inspired you? This person, what was the particular characteristic or feature that inspired you? You can just unmute and share it one by one. If anyone wants to do share.
The methodology that they followed, it was an interactive class wherein they'll be interacting with the students.
Excellent. You said you are inspired because the interaction was better. Okay. Anybody else?
My teacher create more interest in that subject.
How, ma'am?
They form a base first. They can tell some story or interested story or
Excellent.
some
Yes, yes,
interesting
yes.
application.
Some interesting stories or something to, focus your attention. Excellent. Yeah. Anybody else?
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
yes, please.
Yeah. And
Pardon?
economics
Yeah,
teacher
Arun.
in 11th standard.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The reason also she used to between us. I mean, and if we could get less marks, the other girls' marks were reduced, and she encouraged the team learning. So always, if I pass, it's not enough. I should
Uh,
pass, see that I should pass my friends also. So she started this team
Arun,
building.
if you don't mind, Arun, if you don't mind, your
Yes,
audio
sir.
is not clear. So you can just type it in the chat box. I'm
Audio.
not able
Okay,
to
okay.
understand what you're saying.
Okay, sir. I will try.
Okay, some people have mentioned it because Navita has said vast knowledge about the subject and engaging discussions. Excellent. Yeah. So what I understand from this is, any teacher who has been doing the routine things have not been able to inspire you, but somebody who has taken things out of the box, or who has involved you in discussions, who has given some examples, who has shared some stories, all these teachers are inspirational. Excellent. And that is what we are going to look at in this session. Can we please move on, ma'am? Yeah. You see, this slide explains a lot. I don't qualify any teacher as a poor teacher, because even from somebody whom, if you rate as a poor teacher, you can still learn how not to teach. So I always rate people on certain parameters. So when an average teacher is one who tells about things, a good teacher explains, a superior teacher, he demonstrates, he adds inputs, he adds and stories or examples, and he demonstrates it. But if you want to be the best teacher, you have to be one who is inspirational, who can inspire you to achieve different things. I have a quote there again, which is presented by Bruce Lee. A teacher is never the giver of truth. He is a guide, a pointer to the truth, and each student must find the truth for himself. The reality here is the truth is different for each student, as everybody is different from inside and outside. So your expectations, your thoughts, your beliefs will be different, and what you want to achieve is also different. So no teacher can tell you this is the truth. They can only point you in the direction, and you have to travel and find the truth for yourself. So likewise, my suggestion here to all the participants here is, don't try to uh, give fixed ideas to your students. Encourage them to follow their thoughts, be the light, and give them direction. Let them choose for themselves. Can we move on to the next slide, ma'am? Yeah. So now the question is, let us try and understand some interesting facts here. What is the need for pedagogy? Some of you might feel, I have been teaching for 10 years, I have been teaching for 15 years. What is there? All this pedagogy and these things are all just stuff which is coming, but my teachers never bothered about that. Still, they taught me well. Yes, correct. There are lots of teachers who don't know the meaning of the word pedagogy, who have never attended such sessions or conducted such sessions also, but are still some of the best teachers in the world. The idea here is, I'll give you an example and explain this particular thing. See, years back, we were used to, writing letters. Are there any of the participants here who still writes letters and uses the post office to post your letters? Is there anybody who is still doing writing letters using those, no. Navita says yes. You are a very, very interesting person. To whom do you write? And why is it that you still use the post? To grandparents. Okay. That might have some logic, but otherwise, ideally it's something which has become outdated. Today, we talk and do everything on the phone, or we have an email. If there is a written communication which is official, we send it through mail. We do use courier or post, but it is very limited. Most of the conversation happens. So if there is some new technology available and you are not aware of it, then obviously you are going to lag behind. So it is not that mandatory that knowing this pedagogy you will be a great teacher, but yes, it will help you to improve your sessions. What are the importance? You see here, improved quality of learning for your students. They will be more receptive because they can relate with the new technology and the new guidelines. There is more participation. The knowledge is imparted or knowledge transfer happens effectively. And it is also very important because there are a wide spectrum of different types of learners. So you will be able to address the learning ability of different learners. And lastly, there is a chance of development of higher cognitive skills amongst the students. So you need to understand all the various factors. Again, we'll look into it in more depth in the coming slides. So can we move on? Again, you see here, when you use the right pedagogy, you will have more students who are part of the classroom and who will participate in the sessions. There will be discussions rather than lectures. There will be possibility of demonstration of the learning. Students will definitely question you more. The engagement of the students will be better. They will be more focused in the class rather than, chatting or looking out of the window or whatever. There is a chance of some knowledge creation. I'll come to knowledge creation in the coming slides. But at the end of it, the last and most important thing is you will have the satisfaction that your students have actually learned the subject, not that they have just attended the class, they have passed the exam. The best part will be that you have transferred knowledge to them. You have inspired them to learn the subject, which they will never forget. Can we move on? See, a thoughtfully developed pedagogy will improve the quality of teaching. It is like a tool. I hope all of you are nowadays teaching with smart classrooms. You have those PowerPoint slides. You can also add audio visuals and so on. So it makes the student more receptive. So their level of participation improves, and the right pedagogy will impart education to the students with different learning abilities or styles. So if you address a subject to a particular learning ability only, many of the students may be out of focus. But if it is a mixed variety of learning ability that you are addressing, if your pedagogy is using a lot of different styles of learning, then the learning outcome is going to be much, much better. So, can we move on, ma'am? Yeah. So we need a separate, approach to students who have special needs. If they are from different groups, especially if there is a student from the minority, if there is a, there are many areas where girls or women are not encouraged to study, they are looked down upon. So these kind of things you need to address. Sometimes you may find in your class there is a, I'll share an example. One, this is about 25 years back, one of my classrooms, there was a student who was very bright and he used to do very well. But suddenly one fine day I saw he just, left off about 10-15 days. His attendance started fluctuating, and then his performance also started deteriorating. So I used to find other teachers also complaining, and I found that he used to be thrown out of the classes. Then one day I just called him to my room and I told him, come, let's go out and have a cup of tea. So sat down with him in the canteen and no, I was just chatting with him. I just casually, without asking what is his problem, I was just engaging him in some conversation. When suddenly the boy started crying and said like 15 days back, his mother expired and suddenly he is burdened with a lot of additional work at home. He is not able to do any get any time for studies. His father even thought of stopping his education and so on. So he's child of around 17 years or 18 years of age and suddenly facing this problem. And what most of his teachers were doing were just like scolding him and putting him out of the class. Is that a solution to this problem? Well, I am sure this is not just one example. There would be hundreds of other students, who would have very different problems and issues. As a teacher, it is how you interact with the students. Be of, you should be friendly but not a friend. You should inspire but not invoke fear. You should be approachable, and at the same time, the student should have the respect for you. So all these things put together is going to make you a better teacher. This pedagogy will help you to, address the students' problems and develop their higher level cognitive skills. When I talk about this, I am talking as per Bloom's taxonomy, where, we have six different levels. So these levels, I think I have explained it in the next slide also. Can we have the next slide? Yeah. So if you see here, we start from the lower end of the triangle, the base. So what we train at the schools are things which are recall. This is the basic things like, when did this event happen? What comes after this? What comes before? Which month follows May? Which month comes before June? These kind of things are all the lower order skills. Remembering to understand certain things, these are all lower order skills. The middle order is application of the knowledge. What you have learned, if you are able to apply, like a mathematical equation, you have been taught. so that you are able to apply and use it correctly to solve some problems. The next higher order skill is to analyze. You have 3 4 situations, so you are able to analyze and like maybe finding the right path. There are different ways. You analyze and you find which is the easiest or the shortest path. So you use your brains to come up with the solution. The best or the highest order thinking are evaluation and creation. So in one of my earlier slides, I had mentioned about knowledge creation. So that is what I am talking about here now. You are able to evaluate, to assess. There are 3 different solutions. You are assessing and strategically with logic, able to justification ke saath, you are able to say that this would be the right choice. Why? Because these are the advantages, these are the plus points. And more than that is your ability to create knowledge. What is create knowledge? When there is a discussion on something, you come up with your students and you start talking and you come up with a solution which has not been thought for before. Is it possible? Of course it is possible, because there is no one solution for a problem. There can be hundreds of solutions, 10 that you know and 10 that you don't know. So when you come out with an answer which nobody has talked before, then you are actually creating new knowledge. So in today's world, professors are focused on bringing their research into the classroom. What is research? When somebody is doing research, they are trying to gain some new information or knowledge. So if this new knowledge is brought into the classroom or it comes from a classroom, you can imagine the kind of achievement the class would feel, the kind of involvement the class would have. When I say class, it is all the students and the teacher put together. Can we move on, ma'am? Yeah. Now, let us understand what are the different factors which affect pedagogy. The most important factor is the learning style of a student. The students can be a audio learner, somebody can be a kinesthetic learner, somebody can be a visual learner, and somebody might be a mix. So if your teaching methodology is not addressing different types of learning, then a part of the class will feel left out. The competence of the instructor, yes, as I said, almost always instructors feel that they are doing their best job. I never doubt that. But when we share this knowledge, the idea is you are doing a great job. How can you do it better? If you can add on something and make your sessions more interesting, your competence as an instructor will be complemented or increased. The availability of resources, definitely, whether you have teaching aids, smart classrooms, the educational system that is being followed has a important impact on the pedagogy. Some places you might not be able to, like, again, I have a Bloom's taxonomy does not restrict to any particular skills. It is just the learning levels, to understand and to remember is one kind of level. To be able to analyze and evaluate, these are higher order. To apply the knowledge, and the most highest order of learning is to be able to evaluate and create knowledge. Okay, so when we talk about educational systems, I am sure during COVID, most of you would have been asked by your organizations to teach online. Many of you did conduct classes online. Yes, no?
Yes, sir, we have attended.
Yes. Okay. So if you have been conducting classes online, I just have additional question here is, did you train yourself on conducting classes online? How many of you were given training on that?
No, so we didn't train about conducting the online classes.
Pardon?
Sir, I'm saying that I did not trained about how to conducting
Okay,
the
you were
online
not trained.
classes.
That's okay.
Yes, sir.
That's okay. But some were trained. I can see that. But some did not undergo any formal training. The challenge why I asked this was, see, many of the faculty members were trained to teach online, but were the students trained to attend sessions online? Anyone, please? Mahalakshmi or Mr. Muthu Vijayan, whoever has said yes, they got training. Was there any training given to the students to attend the sessions online? What should they do? It's not a question of technically proficient, madam. I know they are technically proficient. Many of the students would have put the screen on, camera off, and would have been busy playing around with their mobile or chatting with their boyfriends and girlfriends and so on. Were they actually participative in the class? That is the question. And anyway, the field of study, that is also very important on what kind of pedagogy can be used. Can we move on to the next slide? Yeah. So my first request or suggestion to all the participants here is, you have to work towards knowing your learners. Understand what kind of learner they are, what type of learner they are, whether they are a visual learner, auditory learner, read-write type, kinesthetic learner. You can see here I have given a link. Please, if you want, you can take down this link. There is a quiz which is available online, which will tell you what kind of learner you are. You first learn for yourself what kind of learner you are. You can ask your students also, and based on your scores or the students' scores, the platform will classify them in what kind of learner they are, and then you can adapt your pedagogy or session according to the knowledge that you have got. Can we move on to the next slide? Yeah. So when you see here, who is a visual learner who prefers learning by seeing images and pictures? Who is a auditory learner who prefers to hear and learn? Somebody should be talking and the person would be learning. Who is a verbal learner? He or she who uses both reading and writing. And who is a kinesthetic learner? Somebody who moves around, who uses his body, sense of touch, feels things and learns. So of course they have shown a few more here. A solitary learner who works alone, a social learner who learns in groups, a mathematical or logical learner who follows reasoning. So every student is a particular kind of learner, and every teacher also has a particular style of learning for himself. Please try out yourself, find out about this, and then adapt your sessions accordingly. Can we move on? There are different learning theories. I am just going to touch these broadly. Behaviorism, which is direct instruction and programmed or social learning theory. Cognitism, which is attribution, elaboration, or cognitive development and conditioning during learning. Humanism is mostly experiential. And constructivism theory says social development, case study based learning, cognitive apprenticeship, discovery, problem based, situation, activity, or actor network theory, So these you need to read more into each of these to understand the different theories. More you read, more time you give, you will be able to better understand and apply this. Can we move on? Yeah, again, I have given a little bit of the gist of some of the leading authors on each of these theory. You can note down the names of these authors. What is the key theory all about that I have shared? For example, behaviorism, the key concept is stimulus and response. That is a change or influencing the observable behavior. The key theory is conditioning. Conditioning means making people behave to a particular thing, a response to a particular stimuli or a situation. For example, if a teacher in school walks in with a stick, the students would have a sense of fear. They would be quiet. They would avoid talking if the teacher is going to remonstrate them with a stick. So it creates stimulus and response scenarios. That is what this is about. So each theory has got its own, concept and lines of thinking. So depending on the kind of activity and the kind of concept that you want to share with the student, you can adapt any one of these theories and try and see how it works for you. Uh, can we move to the next slide, ma'am? Yeah. So there are, as I said, different approaches. There is a constructivist approach, there is a collaborative approach, a reflective approach, inquiry based approach, and integrative approach. So you can understand these are all different links. You can also have a mix of any of these approaches. Okay, because your particular session or topic is not going to be justified by one particular approach. You may need to use both. So there is no harm as a teacher if you are a bit aware of these kinds of approaches. You can, you know, uh, take it from there. Can we move to the next slide? Yeah. So I have given a little bit of clarification on each of these approaches. So what is a constructive approach? It is student centered, builds on past knowledge. That means what we have already taught. It is based on instructor and facilitator learning by doing. It may be little slow paced because student learns by doing, so it cannot be very fast. A reflective approach, as the uh, uh, word says, it is reflective. You do things, then you think about it and come. It could be case studies. A collaborative approach where it involves teamwork. The integrative approach integrates the classroom with the outside world. It might have a link. So if I have learned about this in the class, let's see what is happening in reality. And it encourages application of knowledge. The inquiry based approach is student centered. You are giving them options to inquire and find out about things. They take the lead. They either confirm the findings, they either put it into a structure. It can be guided one, or it can be an open ended session where they come up with whatever information, and that the information is disseminated into the classroom. Can we move on, ma'am? So these are some of the different books or sources of information. I saw some who had asked, could you please mention? Yes, Victor, I have mentioned that in the earlier slide. However, you can take a note of these three, articles, journals, or books, whatever, and you can go through this. This will give you additional information on all these points. Next slide, ma'am. Okay. So now I am explaining a little bit about these different strategies, So collaborative learning, what happens? So we can have the students to catch up on a particular topic. You can sort of engage them in a fishbowl sort of debate, throw the thing and ask them to come out with some thoughts. It could be a case study, it could be theme-based learning, or it could be a think pair, make students into pairs and ask them to reflect and come out with their thoughts. Then the entire class can exchange the ideas. Next, ma'am. Okay. So now let us look at this. This is a very interesting slide here, I have classified this into two parts. If you see here, passive learning process and active learning process. So let us look at it. When the training is passive, a lecture, the result is 5%. When you are doing auditory and visual, the retention is about 10%, and audio visual 20%. When there is a demonstration, there is a 30% learning and retention. Now, when we talk about active learning, which is, I say, participative learning, a discussion where students are also involved, then there is a 50% learning. When you practice doing certain things, where the student is actually learning by doing, 75% retention. And lastly, when you allow students to lead the sessions, let them conduct the class, you sit as a student and you guide them, then there is about 90% understanding and retention. So what is it that we want to achieve? Do we want to achieve more lectures, or we want to achieve more knowledge transfer? So if your target is to achieve more knowledge transfer, try to focus on the lower part of the triangle. Try to involve students in teaching others. Try to make them practice doing things. Try to involve them in discussions. The earlier part can be minimal. I'm not saying that it cannot be there. It should be there. Certain things you need to demonstrate, but then definitely allow the student to practice it once more. If both are actively involved, only then our target of achieving learning will happen. Next slide, ma'am. Yeah. So here I am talking about pedagogical skills. What are the main skills? See, traditionally, communication, adaptability, collaboration, inclusivity, and compassion were enough for an old-time teacher, and they performed absolutely marvelously well. But in the modern day, today's influence of technology and availability of information over the websites, and when you ask a student something nowadays, they don't go to a library, they just go to Google. So there is a lot of wrong information available in Google. So when you see this, as a modern teacher, you need to have some more skills. You need to have, first thing, you need to prepare, because things are changing. It's a dynamic world. What is knowledge today is old knowledge or waste tomorrow. So if you are going to teach yesterday's things, students are not interested. You need to have commitment. You need to be innovative. You cannot just come and have the routine practice of showing a PowerPoint, giving a lecture. It will be boring. You must be in line with technology. Start loving technology. Keep learning. Keep practicing. You must be well organized. You must have a lot of tolerance. Students will misbehave in the class. They will be playing with technology. They will be playing with their mobiles. They will be sending messages. It is your challenge to make them stop that and look at you. You have to use a mix of tricks. So you must ideally have a bag of tricks. You must be able to involve them and engage them. Storytelling, yes, make the sessions attractive. Share some interesting experiences. Keep stories ready. Be social. be open for questions. If you want to ask questions or get questions and you don't respond, then both ways, there's a challenge. And obviously be prepared. You have to be a geek. That means students can come up with some things which, go above your head, face it, and, be using the kind of lingo, be a part of this thing, and have your upper hand. Can we move on to the next slide, ma'am? Next slide, ma'am. Yeah. Okay. So how to improve your pedagogical skills? So you need to be able to review the student evaluations, assess that and see, discuss your skills with your colleagues, conduct some, sessions amongst yourself, attend conferences or sessions like this where you interact with experts and, upgrade your knowledge. Keep up in studies. I have given us some information, but yes, there is a lot more available. UGC also conducts, under the NTET exam, since there is a thing on teaching learning pedagogy. So please get yourself qualified and updated on these things. Ask for additional training in your organizations. Keep updated with new technology and gadgets. Practice more. It will help you. Can we move on, ma'am? Yeah. So be a proactive communicator. Don't wait for questions to be asked. Share your knowledge. Try out different learning styles. Involve students in designing your assignments. Make your classroom inclusive. Give students space to express themselves. Do not invoke fear. Be approachable. Let them come and talk to you and share their thoughts. Identify the learning traits of the students. I have already shared this with you. You can learn your own learning style as well as encourage your students to understand and work on that. Don't be a trainer or a teacher. Instead, be a learning facilitator. Facilitate your sessions. Be there as a guide. You remember the light towards the truth. That is what you need to be. Let the students find that things for themselves. Next one. See, I have shared, these are limited. This is not that this is the complete list. There is much more. I have shared some innovative teaching methods here. So if you look at it, it could be project-based learning. Flipped classes are becoming very popular in these days. You can try it out. You can use crosswords, quizzes, MCQs. You can experiment with the students, allow them to perform experiments and learn from that. It can be an activity based, or it can be a case study, simulation, role plays, virtual labs can be there, or it could be a blend of any of these 1, 2, 3, 4 as you find suitable or logical. Next one. Okay, so look at the delivery process. 1, you set the learning objectives. 2, the instruction and delivery and self-learning that is required. This is the pre-preparation and preparation part. 3, what are the activities that you will be doing? This is actually doing the delivery, the classroom session, interactions, exercise, practice. Number 4, evaluation. And finally, feedback. So this is a learning cycle. Repeat it for each chapter or each credit point or whatever as per your system, and keep doing it at intervals so that you can also record the learning of your students. Next slide, ma'am. Okay, so I am just going to almost I am coming to the end. I just have a couple of more slides, but I have a few points here. Every session that you start, make sure that you have an icebreaker or something to break the monotony of the classroom, especially after the post lunch sessions where students are all yawning and looking at when this day is going to get over. So if you have some activity or icebreaker, you can break that monotony and make them attend the session. The next which I shared here is an introduction where I write win. If you have gone through this presentation, I will be explaining this in very clear manner. W stands for what? I stands for interest and N stands for need. So whenever you have a topic, first thing is what is the topic? Make it very clear. Number two, interest. Share some story or interest around the topic to attract the attention. And number three, address the need for that knowledge. What is the use of that topic? The need should be both, professional as well as personal. Madam, before I go to the next slide, can we go to the earlier slide where I had my, second slide, I think, learning objectives. Slide number 2. Yeah. So can you, so participants, please look here. Here I have already very clearly mentioned what this session is all about. Can we go to the next slide, ma'am? Here I shared some interest about this, entire session. I have shown you some things. This actually is not very much part of the session, but yes, this generated some interest. Can we move to the next one? And after this, next one, ma'am, where I think I have given all these are the interest part, and still we are with the interest. Then when we go to the thing, the need for pedagogy would be the next slide. I think, yes, where I have discussed with you the need, both your professional or personal. We can get back to the place where we'll stop, ma'am. Yeah. So you understand this win concept, you will be successful. Win is win for both you as well as your students. The structured and planned delivery, when your delivery is organized and it is presented in a right fashion, people will accept and understand it. You break the task into steps. If there is a difficult task, make it easy. 3-4 steps and let the student practice step by step. And then again ask him to do the whole thing. They'll learn it. At the end of a session, you reinforce the topic, repeat. You stimulate them and you engage them. Lastly, you evaluate, and at the end of the session, you summarize what are the key objectives and how that has to be achieved or how they have to learn. So I am coming to the end of my presentation. Just have few things or tips which I would like to share. For an active classroom, please keep your energy levels high. If the teacher is active, the students will also, reflect that energy. If you yourself are depressed and bored or, gloomy, the class will also be like that. Don't be predictable. That means do not do the same thing again and again. Have changes for the same topic also in different sessions. Do things differently. Don't do different things, but do things a little differently. So engage the students, be innovative, be creative, involve them, get them to be, part of the session, let them be a part of the team. Have the students to lead the sessions. You can become passive and let them be active. The last slide, ma'am. Be honest, be passionate. I had a lot of people, who responded that they were passionate about their subjects. So your passion should show in your sessions. If you are passionate, all the rest of whatever I have told, pedagogy and other things, is all nonsense. Your passion will actually achieve success for you. That is the most important thing. Be passionate, be honest, understand your limitations, accept it, learn from students. Sometimes students are better teachers than, yourself on certain areas. They might be more skilled. Always celebrate and acknowledge the achievements of students publicly. But if you want to reprimand somebody, try to do it always in private. Update yourself, be more actively engaged in research, learn more, and bring newness into your session. Carry research from outside into your classroom. Prepare for each of your session as though it is the first time you are going to take that subject, because you don't know what to expect. It is a very different scenario today. And on the same lines, as I said, last point is expect the unexpected. Anything can be there. Be prepared for that. And if you are ready for the unexpected thing, then obviously expected things will be easy for you to handle. Last one. So I think I have gone through all the slides. I have more or less shared my thoughts. Now I am open. So please feel free. If anyone has questions, you can just either unmute and ask, or you can